and spiritual dimensional world, right? And I wanted it to teach people how to be good people and how to learn about, the threads of wisdom and whatnot. And then I thought I could use that money to then fund the exotic tech.
Uh-huh.
Um, but fortunately enough, well, not fortunately enough, but well, it is fortunate enough. COVID happened, and then I started Earth United because I was like, fuck, something's got to be done. So, as a branding guy, I mean, my background is I specialize in creative brand communications and I specialize in multimedia. So that's all digital and actual like full-on campaigning. So I worked in advertising initially. I did stuff for like Barclays and big banks and whatnot. And then after that, I started my own agency, and then I went into tech, and I started, I 3D model, I animate, I design, I sound engineer, fucking anything, bro. And I've been waiting to meet.
I am doing excellent, Jesse. I see we both got matching hats on today, and we caught up recently. Full moon in Capricorn. You were on my mind, decided to give you a call, and you blew my mind with your knowledge, man. It's off the charts. It's truly exceptional. As a thank you for everything that I learned, when you put together Earth United, you took a break from you're working on an app right now. It's kind of on the hush hush called Star Kingdom. So I wanted to bring you on, pick your brain a little bit. You're listed as South Africa's next billionaire. You're working on this amazing app, and I wanted to get some insight from you about because multimedia and brand communications is your specialty. We talked for over an hour about different AI app development, Elon Musk, branding, marketing, all these different niches that you're pretty much an expert on. And I know from experience and my own background that edification is key to successful philanthropy. So, if we could just start off with a bit of your background uh, and kind of how you took Earth United, because you put everything on hold to build that, because you saw that something needed to be done, right? And leaders lead by example. So if we could start from there, segue, go wherever the conversation takes us. But it's honestly, your mind is, I'm impressed by it, bro. And it's an honor to have you on the podcast officially and just have a organic conversation. And it's a way for me to thank you for everything that I learned. Through your organization. So I wanted to help you with achieve your dreams too, work together and see where this takes us, bro. So thank you once again for agreeing to come on to Solution Central. And, let's see where what magical kingdoms we can create. Because after all, Star Kingdom, bro. Like there's no limits. You know what I mean? It's just, and one thing you taught me too is that it's important to have precision, be precise. And when you rush, mistakes happen. It's like one little thing can throw off the entire out. It's like in life too, right? Everything's code. So we got to work with the code that we have. So Mr. Jesse Perez Casanova, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot for uh, such kind words. Yeah, amazing intro. Very generous with your description of me.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Um, so yeah, it's funny because you say I put this project on hold that to do Earth United, but now I put Earth United on hold to do this, and then once this is done, I'm rebooting Earth United with software behind it, you know, Star Kingdom ultimately.
That's amazing.
Because at the end of the day, you need your platforms. You need your own platform. That's the impression I'm under. You know, I started out in advertising and marketing. I found that accidentally, actually, and I found that world to be quite fascinating and interesting. You know, so I was quite inspired by it until at a later stage, I learned how manipulative it can be, because ultimately that's what you're doing. You're manipulating people's perception of your brand, your product, and your services. Um, so, you know, I also am a qualified brand specialist. So, you know, that's more of the more interesting part. That's, I suppose, less manipulative because the brand relies more upon the truth and essence of the entity in which it is that you've created. Although, you know, people can stretch that truth and manipulate that truth, which ultimately is not a position you ever want to be in. You don't want to be overselling something. um, you know, what you want to be doing is you want to be selling the truth of what you're selling, you know, ultimately, because, you know, a brand is like a person. People are going to seem more sincere, more authentic, more honest. So, you know, and as we know, a lot of brands stretch the truth of their sincerity, of their integrity, of their honesty.
Yeah.
And in many cases, for huge corporations, that works quite well, but it doesn't create the branding I'm aiming for, which is creating a special person, creating a special brand.
Yeah.
You know, and as I said to you in the conversation before, the brand is not a separate entity from the product. The brand and the product are the same entity. You know, like for instance, your product is your body. Let's just put it that way, okay? And what your body is capable of. And your brand is Steve, the personality associated towards your body. And those two are one entity
Yeah,
in
like
that regard.
you could have the world's best product, but at the end of the day, if the character or your uh the if you're overselling it, over sensationalizing it, doesn't matter how good the product is. No one's gonna work with you, right?
Yeah, and vice versa, you know, for the brand, or the brand can lie about the product, and the products can, I don't want to say the product can lie about the brand, but there can be a disconnect between the two. So the reason I use a human to associate towards brand is because, you know, who has branding and marketing is supposed to make us feel things, you know, but most brands and markets are manipulating and engineering what they would like you to feel, which is disconnected from the truth and reality
Like
of the
emotional engineering.
physicality of their entity, you know. So for instance, I can be a manipulative liar, but I can be very good at selling myself, selling my product, my body, my entity, and I can make you feel feelings which are not representative of the truth about how I feel about you. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, for instance, a company can sell you feelings, but they just want money out of you. They don't want a relationship. They don't want a connection. They want a result, you know? So most brands do that. Most corporations do that in this capitalistic world we're living in. They're very manipulative. And most people do that, you know, so it's not too much of a stretch to understand why. A lot of people are manipulative in their presentation of their values, of their ideology, of their beliefs, of their disposition towards you. And it's not sitting in truth of their own integrity and authenticity. There is a mask that's being placed on here. So the reason I liken brands towards people is because companies are created by people, they deal with people, they're bought by people. And people have emotions, and we connect to people through emotions, you know? Although sometimes, for a nihilistic perspective, you might see the world in a very cold perspective, and you may disregard the emotional aspect of interconnectivity between humans. But the truth is, like when you do a wonderful opening here to describe me, which is very generous, I must admit, it makes me feel um, a very special feeling, you know, a special feeling of honesty and sincerity and generosity and kindness from you. And it makes me think, wow, it's so nice to actually see people are able to express such kindness sincerely and authentically in that way.
It's
So you get a
reciproc
very special feeling. But the thing
reciprocation.
about that feeling is it wasn't engineered. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we look at a brand and a product, that feeling is amazing. I'm sure you've had it with somebody you've connected closely with, and you felt great rapport between yourself and that person, and a warm feeling that is being like, wow, that's a feeling of kindness. You felt the warmth of that kindness and that sincerity. So, you know, this that feeling is an emanation of your entity and in an extension of your entity, right? Because if your entity is foul and toxic, you're going to emanate toxicity. If your entity is kind and loving, it's going to be natural for you to emanate that kindness and lovingness. You know, instead of being at the core toxic and having to mask those toxic emanations to modify and change them. But at the end of the day, the signature is still going to, you know, even if a toxic entity emanates kindness, manufactured kindness, there's still going to be the truth. The truth cannot be hidden. The signature will still lead towards the core energetic construct of that entity,
But I want to
you know?
ask you real quick. You've heard the saying "fake it till you make it." They teach it in a lot of. I went to Conestoga College in Kitchener, biggest campus, Dune campus, and they had a center for entrepreneurship, and that's one of the things that one of the companies taught is fake it, like put on a mask, you act successful until you start attracting the right amount of people. They don't know any difference because it's your confidence. What are your thoughts on that approach
I
to
would completely disagree with that. We live in a world where we're relying upon the influence of others through appearances and perceived appearances. That destroys sincerity, it destroys authenticity, and it leads you to believe that you need to construct a certain image to develop relations with people in order for them to provide opportunities towards you. First of all, if the person you're dealing with that's going to open a door for you relies on you, you know, having to have a certain affluent image in order to give you the time of day, you got to ask yourself the question, is that really the individual I want to align myself with? Many people that are comfortable with wearing masks would be totally happy with that idea. But when we're going back to the energy of what I'm describing, because as I've explained, we can make two different types of companies, two different types of projects. We can make one that's centered around creating profit by managing the perception of people through the masked appearances, or we can actually focus on the core, the energy, the truth, the authenticity, the goodness, and investing in that where that needs no mask. It is its own appearance. It's not an appearance you have to construct. So, you know, most people say fake it till you make it. What fake it for people to open you a door? My advice in life is never rely on someone having to open a door for you. You have to figure out how to construct and create and install the door you want to walk through. You know, you want to walk through someone else's door, society's door, civilization's door. No, you want to create your own door. Becoming reliant upon people leads towards having to satisfy their desire to see and expect certain appearances, and it's like, do I really want to do that? Uh, you know, you know,
Because then you're almost
that
putting
answers your question.
the success of the project in someone else's hands too, right? By
Exactly.
relying
The
on other
success of any
people. And
goal or ambition you may have, you're putting it in someone else's hands, and you might as well be playing the lottery. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
There's there's
gamble.
there's you you can either wait for a golden ticket to go to someone else's chocolate factory, or you can create your own chocolate factory, you
Golden
know?
transit. Yeah. Yeah, like Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. He had the golden ticket, the winning numbers. But it's
Maybe a bad example, but the point is that in life, you don't want somebody to have to be the key to your next phase of evolution. You never want that. That destroys your sense of independence, and it destroys your psychological perception of how to obtain and achieve success. Success is created by you creating your own door. And when I say door, I mean product, project,
yeah.
um, initiative. You know, instead of somebody giving you an opportunity, giving you, a leg up in life, that's the idea of getting a leg up is an illusion. It's a fantasy, to be so totally honest with you. Um, it's an illusion. It's a fantasy. We rely, and this is why people are so hell-bent on respecting appearances. If somebody appears to be super wealthy and super successful, we treat them differently. We treat them in a completely new and different way. And what does that say about society? What does that say about people? You know, um,
It's
it,
status.
it's and why do people do that? Because they can gain something from it. It's a transactional relationship,
Yeah.
is what it is. So my whole thing is like, if I'm super wealthy and my project is doing really well, which it should be in the next year, I'm still going to dress like a hobo. I'm still going to speak to hobos. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
amazing. Yeah.
Your appearance is not why I'm speaking to you. Do you know? And that says something to me about my own core of my own being, my own outlook, my own perspective. So do I want to align with people that are potentially going to open a door for me, that are going to judge me based on my appearance? No, never. Not at all. That's going to completely, totally waste time for me and eliminate the truth of who I am. And I need the truth of who I am if I'm going to create what I want to create. Because if I am relying upon the truth of somebody else, I'm going to create something based upon the truth of somebody else that has nothing to do with me. And, I'm not the sort of person that's just about profit. I'm about creating something that is, going back to feeling, going back to entity, going back to energy. Uh, you know, when I say you gave me a special warm feeling, I create a more entrusted relationship with you in my mind. That's what marketing and branding is supposed to do. From a platform of truth and sincerity. So imagine creating a product and a service and a brand and an entity and a company that's built upon that same truth, that same integrity, that creates those same feelings. Why do people drive a Ferrari? Because a Ferrari basically makes you feel the feeling of success. Okay, so we sell that to you.
They
Okay,
sell the
having a nice
emotion, they
blonde next to you.
package it. Yeah.
Okay, we're selling, this is a very, very low, cheap marketing tactic, but we're selling a feeling of affluence and success to you. Okay, we don't give a shit about you. We don't give a shit how many arseholes drive a Ferrari, do we? No, we can sell a Ferrari to a fucking human trafficker. We don't give a fuck. We're making a sale. Do you understand what I'm saying? But we're selling you the feeling of affluence. Even if it's BMW or whatever, we're selling you a certain feeling. And trust me, they spend a lot of time thinking about what the feeling they're selling you, what psychological outcome they're selling you, right? So my thing is like, imagine a car company that didn't sell cars, beautiful cars, let's say electric or whatever, but they didn't sell them. So no matter how rich you were, you couldn't buy one. And they only awarded these cars to people who they deemed to be very good, amazing, honest, kind, and integral people. So now you've got this car on the road. Okay, let's call it a star car or a star machine.
Sure.
Okay. And you've got this car on this road, and it's like, wow, this beautiful, lovely looking, futuristic machine. And we look at the person driving it, and then we have a guy driving a BMW or Ferrari, and we look at the BMW, we look at the Ferrari, and they're like, oh, that guy's probably an arsehole. You know, that guy's probably a jerk,
A lot
right?
of people tend to associate the person
Yes,
with,
psychologically speaking, we
yeah,
associate the product with the people that use the products. Okay, right? And vice versa. So now you've got this other car where the rich asshole can't buy it. And now we're looking at this the person driving that car, and we're thinking to ourselves, wow, that must be a really good person. Because this company only gives these cars to people they deem to be very giving towards humanity,
association
very, very,
marketing.
very,
Yeah.
very philanthropic, very kind, very generous, very loving. And all of a sudden, the car is associated towards that, and the driver is associated towards that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is a new way of branding or marketing or communication, because that's what it is. It's communication, okay, based on truth, not on a lie, not on us selling you a lie, not on us selling you like, oh, this Ferrari or BMW is going to fix all your problems. It hardly ever does, okay? So I go back to the specialness of the energy, and that's just a poor example, but imagine something, your favorite cartoon growing up. For me, Pokemon. When I watch Pokemon, it's a brand, it's a product, it's a world, it's a universe. It gave me such an unbelievable feeling of this color, these amazing, happy people. It took away the grunge and the horribleness of humanity, and it gave this product that gave me an escape to a world that was based upon kindness, collaboration, cooperation. These are all of the elements within this universe that are inside the informational construct, which is Pokemon.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the feeling it gives you because it's created an imaginative world, an imaginative universe based upon really good principles in terms of human characteristics, in terms of ideals. Okay. Because this is what we're communicating. We're communicating variables in any given circumstance. You as an individual, you as a story writer, you as a filmmaker, you as a businessman, when you need to communicate, you're communicating a massive amount of variables associated towards the universe that is what you created. So, so when I look at my app, I look at it as a multi-dimensional entity. It's multi-dimensional because just like Pokemon is a multi-dimensional entity. It's an imaginative entity that lives within our neurons, our psychology, our energy. It's multi-dimensional. Okay?
100%.
Information, art, music, it's all multi-dimensional, right? And what makes it multi-dimensional is the massive amounts of variables and information that are associated towards it. I spoke about ideals, I spoke about values, I spoke about uh, happiness, all of these things. So imagine what you were creating, what you want to create. You're creating a universe, okay? Because in you lives many universes. Your imagination can imagine an entire universe. And that universe can be however you imagine it to be. Now, if I had said to you, Steve, I'm going to give you 10 days to imagine a universe or imagine a Earth, a planet with its own civilization, with its own people, what would that look like? What would it feel like? What would the colors be like? What would the designs be like? And all of these different elements is what the different points of variability that make it multidimensional. So if I go to a certain city, it's got certain buildings, the air smells a certain way, the ambience, the music, the culture, the people, the way they respond to you. They hear all these variables that create this domain and realm of feeling and emotion. right? And what everything any human has ever been created has been inspired by that realm and domain of feeling and emotion. It's been feeling and emotion that's driven people to create and bring this universe of imagination into what they're creating, right? So now imagine everything I've just said to you. Everything I've said to you, while I'm saying it to you, your imagination's running wild with your own interpretation of what I'm saying, right? I'm painting a picture, and you are also painting that picture in your own mind, relating to the picture I'm painting at the same time. It's a co-creative experience, and it's creating a synergy between not only your physical body, but your consciousness and your imagination.
Very immersive.
It's immersive. Exactly. So now, everything I've just said, imagine you can take this feeling, the energy, the elements, the entity, and then put it into your product. Then your brand is easy. Your brand is the universe that you created.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? The communication is based upon how communication takes place in the universe you created.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? Now you are having a whole new experience with physical creation. You're having a visceral, immersive experience as opposed to here's a fucking Ferrari, it costs a lot of money, looks good, and here we go.
Because there's a stronger connection now because you visualized it all from scratch and you created it. There's an emotional bond and a sacred
Yes.
connection because of that individual touch. When I look at things, I see the universe as like a beautiful canvas and everything is working perfectly. It's just like frame rates and in perfect stillness. That's what I see. I see like even painters before they start painting on the canvas, they see it in their mind. They see how it all works out, and then each brushstroke helps create the completion of the entire overall artwork. It's magic in motion. It's what it is.
And it feels like magic, right? That's the thing. It's the feeling of magic. So if you just now in your imagination, we're imagining this earth, this world, you know, relative to you, your uniqueness, your unique imagination. Now imagine the next thing Steve created. He found a way to bring that universe into what he created, every aspect of it. So that when you interact with what Steve's created, you're feeling exactly what he felt. Because Steve's put that in every element that you can engage with, the design, the music, the immersive experience. So you're taking this multi-dimensional, multi-variable matrix, and you're trying to bring it into reality as much as possible so that they can engage with as much of your imagination as possible. Imagination is based upon feelings, colors, sounds, beautiful musics, symphonies. So this app that I'm creating is a multi-dimensional experience in the sense that it's art. And so I need it to be art because if it's not art, it means less to me. Okay. So there we go. I'm honest with myself as a creator. So if I ever need to now communicate this to the public, I don't have to engineer my communication. All I have to do is find a way to communicate the truth.
And you can
I don't
tell,
have to engineer a truth. I have to just figure out how to communicate the truth.
yes, and I found too, like art and the word art is in the word heart. I find, and this was the last interview I did was with a publisher that she did it differently than anything. She had a vision that no other company did it very uniquely, and that's why I was magnetically. It's literally called magnetic publishing, right? So I was drawn to her because of that, and she said the conversation was very authentic, not scripted, and felt very genuine. And I find like this entire conversation, when people have interviews that aren't scripted, it flows better. It's genuine. There's a stronger connection. There's no expectations, and it's meant to go exactly how it is, and then it just creates itself and evolves naturally. It's organic.
Absolutely. And I watched that interview. She's a very lovely lady to listen to. Her authenticity is very clear. And that's my whole thing. It's like when you listen to someone like her, Somebody who is intuitive, who, when it comes to reading people, can see, okay, yeah, no, this is an authentic, sincere woman or lady. I personally enjoy listening more to people like that, because it creates trust, and everything is based upon trust, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I watch people online and I can see if I would trust them or I wouldn't trust them. And you the same way. Everyone's the same way. Everything we're interacting with, everyone we're interacting with, we're deciding how much we trust them, you know? You- which is what it really comes down to. How much do I trust what this person's saying? How much do I trust that it's the truth, that they even believe it, that they are sincere? It all comes down to trust. When you interact with a product, when you interact with a service, do I trust this company? You want a VPN? Do you trust them with your information? You want a business partner or whatever? Do you trust them? You want to use a certain food or product or milk? Do you trust it? And so this is what the whole world's doing, I guess, is that we are emanating different degrees of trustworthiness, and we are making our choices and decisions upon how much we trust in things. But some people's perspective of what their trust needs to be built upon is skewed because some people will trust the wrong things. Like, for instance, fake it till you make it. They'll trust appearances, and appearances can be deceiving. One of these things I always say to myself is be careful with making assumptions because assumptions are dangerous, you know, and that's why I stay away from speculation. I stay, appearances do nothing for me. I've been around famous people, I've been around certain people, and it's just you're another human being, dude. Like, it's the same for me to speak to some random guy on the street than it'll be to speak to you. And in most cases, it's sometimes way better to speak to the random poor guy on the street, funnily enough.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I would just talk to people at bus stops when I was living in Kitchener, and someone was walking past, said, "How long you known this guy?" I just met him like 2 minutes ago. Really? Because you seem like best friends. Like you're communicating like you've known each other forever. It's just connection, authenticity, knowing how to read energy. That's all it is, right?
Absolutely. So do you see that whole extremely passionate description I gave you earlier? You felt it, right? Did you feel it? Did it excite you?
Yeah.
Right? It excites you. Okay. So that is the stuff you want to share. If you do want to share, you don't have to share anything. But if you are in the business of sharing, you want to share the magic, right? So that people can feel the magic. People can get excited with you, you know? So that's I bring back to branding and marketing. It's actually very intuitive what I'm saying. It's not really rocket science. It's very intuitive because, hey, does this make me feel amazing? Like sometimes I watch certain art pieces or animes or whatever, and they give me such an incredible feeling. And that feeling does so much for me because it inspires me. It influences my creativity. So, this is how your brand or product can give more because most branded products are not trying to give anything. They're actually trying to take from you. And what they should be doing is they should be learning how to give. They should be learning how to give imagination, direction, focus, a vision, how to share that vision. Is your vision a good vision? If it is a good vision, it should be shared because the more people it's shared with that share that vision are going to be influenced by it and are going to influence the world based on the positive influence they've experienced from it. So, we are all visionary. We're all visionary. We have dreams. Our dreams show us whole new universes in our minds unconsciously. And we're all visionary. Some people have visions, dreams, imagination, curiosity. We're all visionary beings. So, my advice to anyone that wants to start something magical or figure out what to start in the first place, which is a very important step, is to basically have the vision, develop the vision, find the vision, create the universe. And like for instance, Star Kingdom is going to have many products, right? So for instance, I'm going to create a car, Star Machine, as I said, and I'm not going to sell it. It's going to be free. And so, okay, the app's going to fund the car. Okay.
Hydrogen,
And
hydrogen-based running
who
car or
knows?
what?
Who knows? We'll see what's
Some
possible.
futuristic tech that might not even exist yet.
Yes, yes, yes. But a beautiful, immersive, universal experience. So it's like in my universe, what does that car look like? What does it feel like? I'm also creating a phone called a Star Phone,
Sweet.
and also free. You can't buy them. You can't buy the phone. You can't buy the car. Can't buy the TV. Okay. And so what I'm doing, Steve Jobs was an amazing visionary. He's actually a great inspiration for a lot of the things I discussed with you. He took Zen philosophy, Zen aesthetics, Zen feelings, and he had incorporated it into a product, and the brand just became an extension of the product. And so what he did was he created hardware first, and after creating hardware, then created software. And so the software beca the software uh, revolved around the hardware, right? The software, so they were a hardware company that then became about software. And so the software influenced the hardware influences the software. In my story, I'm creating software to get the capital, then to create the hardware. So it's the opposite way around. The hardware is centered around the software, right? So Star Kingdom will have the software as the core star systems, is what it's called, which is the core system that runs all the products, right? So the car, and when you see the app and you see how visceral and immersive it is, it's very difficult to do that, by the way. It's one thing to have an imagination, but it takes commitment and grit and perseverance to craft it and bring it into reality, which you have to commit to. And if your vision is so good, you will commit to it. You will make sure you'll do anything you can, ethically and morally speaking, within reason, in terms of creating it and making it happen. No shortcuts, no corners, creating it. You want to create something, figure out how to and make it happen, right? And be as independent and resourceful as possible, right? And you are your own greatest resource, so make the most of that. So now imagine this huge, beautiful app comes out. It's this immersive 3D beautiful experience, which apps don't usually have, they lack, and which is why my app has massive amounts of 3D components inside of it, because it and music, and it's a cinematic app. Okay, because I'm creating an experience, I'm creating this universe I'm telling you about. I'm using as many elements I can within my product to bring that forward and
Like a
create that
full,
multi-dimensional, multimedia experience.
like a full cognitive, immersive
Yes,
world.
as many bells and whistles, we create a 2D being, and we give it a mouth, and we give it the ability to sing, and we give it the ability to write poetry and dance, all these different ways to express itself, right? We're giving it legs to walk and run around and dance and sing. We're giving it hands and fingers to paint, right? Um, Ears to hear, to listen. um, we're creating a being, we're creating an entity, and we're creating how it interacts with you. So I'm giving it more components, more arms, more legs, more this, more that. So my whole thing is like, once the app is done, I'm going to create a phone which has my own software in it. And my phones, you won't be able to buy them. They will only be able to be given for free. Beautiful phones I'll design myself, Star phones, but they're based in the Star Kingdom universe, the SKU. Okay. So
Like the
so
marketing SKU on products. Clever.
absolutely
Love what
right.
you did there.
What I'm describing is my passion to you. I'm describing the many aspects and features of it, because it's this universe, and it's like, in my universe, what does my phone look like? In my universe, what does my car look like? What does my car, when you get in, it's like star systems initializing, like this, and all, it's just, you'll see in my aesthetics. My aesthetics are very much inspired by Pokemon, because Pokemon is fun, friendly, clean, aesthetically pleasing to the eye, calming, sometimes exciting, sometimes nerve-wracking. It's like writing a movie, and that's basically what I'm doing. I'm writing a movie into an app, right? Because there will be a movie as well, by the way. But the movie takes you on a journey, right? Because one of the things I do is screenplay writing and scripts, and I do video production. But I'm using this app to fund everything, the movies, the
Okay.
phone, the car. And the movie will be free as well, by the way. Um, um, I, my whole thing is to provide free products, which sounds crazy, okay? But it's gonna happen, okay?
In today's day and age, see what drew me to Earth United in the first place was the one video that just blew up, and that's why I wanted to create like a map how how you did it because that last we talked, that video had like 200,000 views. You created a vision that drew people in, and it just grew. Like, it's one thing to have a vision. It's a whole nother ball game to create that and just
Yes.
grow it and grow it and grow it and grow it. Like I was just on a webinar the other day, and this man's vision is to change 1 billion lives. I'm just like, that's huge. But he obviously believes he can do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't put it out there, you know?
Yeah. So my thing is, as you said, having a vision is the fun, amazing, exciting part. The difficulty is manifesting that vision. And when I say manifest, I mean creating it. There is no, in my mind, there is no other way to manifest than to create.
Yeah.
Okay. That is, you want to know how to manifest? Create. Get good at creating. Create stuff. Otherwise it's just an idea, it's just a thought. Yes, I believe on some level the electromagnetic energy of thoughts can influence life and the variability of it in some aspect or regard,
Yeah.
but it's not going to, we're not magical fucking beings that can materialize stuff with our mind. Unfortunately not.
Without
We have to,
action, there's no momentum, and then it's just manifesting, and then that leads to mental issues, and you're just delusional, trapped in your mind.
absolutely. And our society has gone down this path with the whole new age trend, which is selling you the ease of just thinking about stuff and making stuff easy and faking it till you make it. It's all so similar, right? And it's like, no, let's get honest with you. If you want to do amazing shit, okay, it takes fucking work. There's no two, three,
There's
four, five ways around
no
that.
sugarcoating it.
It takes work. You want to develop a skill, you want to learn how to do something, time, effort, energy, work.
Bingo.
Okay, hone your skills, craft them, make them better. It takes work, it takes time, but we shouldn't see that as a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's part of the journey, which is why for me it has to be inspiring. If it's not inspiring, the work is just work. You know, it's not magic. Okay, it's not like it's like imagine the guys that were creating that game we spoke about, Minecraft.
Minecraft? Yeah.
Minecraft, okay, look, Minecraft's not for me, but I can still see how the guy had this amazing idea of this universe, Minecraft, and this fun, colorful, low poly world. And that work wasn't just work for them, you know what I mean? It was, wow, it was the addictive enjoyment of bringing in your wonderful imagination into a manifested reality, into a world, you know? So I look at products like that and I don't play Minecraft, but I am inspired by what it is. I'm inspired by the cultural phenomenon that it has become. Um, I am inspired that somebody took their imagination and created a whole entire universe, which, has affected 1 billion people's, has changed 1 billion people's lives.
And then he sold it to, pretty sure it was Microsoft, and he was in Hollywood, and he outbid Beyonce, or he was bidding against Beyonce and Jay-Z for a mansion that overlooks the entire city. Like from an idea in his head to bidding on a mansion. And just the whole creative process too. I would imagine with apps too, there's a psychological cognitive connection. between dopamine hits. Like they know what makes apps addictive and how the chemistry works in the brain too, right? For
Yeah,
marketing.
particularly information and algorithmic display of that information, contents, that is, and rewards, so for me, social media has become, uh, I don't like it. It's funny. I've never liked social media, but I have a social media company, um, because I'm creating what I want, not what I haven't liked, and I'm using all their flaws to create my strong points. Okay. All the f- my all my perceived flaws of their products and experiences. So it's become a narcissistic playground for narcissism, for showing off, for faking it until you make it, for presenting a certain personality. Like when I see influencers that are all bubbly and shit online, sometimes the pessimistic nihilist in me says, oh my God, this person's just fucking insufferable because I can just see that it's all fake.
It's who they are
It's not
behind
real. It's not
closed.
giving me a feeling. It's not giving me what I described to you. I'm a purist in that regard, you know? It's not giving me that, And Instagram was terrible example of of a very successful application that has damaged society because it's just fucking made people fucking worse. Okay, so has a lot of YouTube content. Look, there's a lot of good YouTube content out there, but the algorithms are such trash that they're just giving you the most addictive, drama-orientated nonsense predominantly, and not prioritizing the more sincere, authentic content like your videos or whatever. They're not doing that,
Well, that's
because they're
what
giving.
that's what they said. They sent me an email and they said your growth is not good. Your viewer count is not good. Google sent a marketing company to optimize the SEO because he said you should be getting more views. Your content is amazing, but it's not growing, right?
Yeah,
So
but that's them and their algorithms because, like, I don't know if it's everyone's algorithm depends on their use, and we live in these isolated bubbles of preference and in terms of what content's being displayed to us. But I sometimes wonder, is it me and what I'm focusing on? Look at crime, for instance. Crime entertainment is a huge industry, okay? And it's like, I don't feel good after watching crime videos for 4 hours,
no.
I feel shit. And I just, because for me, okay, this is another interesting thing I want to say to you. Every single time you hear a sound, you think a thought, somebody says something to you, you look over there and you see a certain aesthetic and vision and atmosphere and ambience and environment. Those are all environmentally programming your neural chemical frequencies. And every single neural chemical frequency that gets processed through your brain basically modifies the physiology of your brain. So every single experience you've had is basically altering and shaping and changing your brain physiologically and is changing your perspective. Because if you have a really shitty perspective of the world, you're going to have a really shitty experience of the world, okay? I- you know, but some people who've had really shitty experiences in the world have developed really shitty perspectives of the world, which is then creating more perception. So our perception because two people can see the same ambience and get different electrochemical states and phases and frequencies processing through it, developing different physiological outcomes. Okay, so. So it's very important who you speak to, who you spend your time around, what you read, what you watch, where you go, what you look at, what you think, what you tell yourself to believe, how you tell yourself to look at the world is all shaping electrical chemical responses in your brain in the present and the future, because our future is linked towards our memory, which links us to the past. So you can have a certain electrochemical past memory that can all of a sudden randomly pop up in the future and influence your current electrochemical state. Okay, so 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 this is very important because it can make us taste things differently. It can make us experience two individual people experience the same ambience completely differently, right? So this gets technical because it's all about variability that connects the past, the present, and the future. And it gets technical because it's like, okay, if I'm creating a product and I'm just keeping in mind what I've just told you, okay, wow, that means when anyone uses my product, my algorithm, my experience, it's shaping their freaking brain and imagination. And at every touch point where I influence someone's electrical chemical state is going to create a cascading ripple effect of the future. And it's going to influence their future neuroelectrical chemical state, which is, it just gets crazy. Okay. 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 This is when we're just going overboard, right? We're getting super duper complicated with
These are
stuff.
the
But
types of conversations that I love having because I even reached out to a doctor who he works with creating like organic products for changing neurochemical, helping people sleep and stuff like that. And this is what when you were talking about authenticity, like I study how the brain works, neuroplasticity, synaptic pruning, all of these different myelination processes, how the brain chemical formations and the patterns and all that. And I wanted to have him on, but he looked at my content, and because I didn't have a lot of that stuff, he like passed right over it. It would have been great to have a conversation, but like you said, appearances matter. Just because someone you should never judge a book by its cover, just like you, right? Or Warren Buffett. Just like he's got a lot of money, but doesn't mean he has to go out and buy lavish things, right? So it's super important
yeah,
to
but he
look
might be an
past.
unenjoyable asshole, you know? I mean,
Could be.
what is the money doesn't t magically turn people away from being a fucking asshole,
It just
you know?
it amplifies more of who they are. That's all it does.
It can make them better or worse, you know, but we shouldn't use that as a metric to decide whether we engage with someone or not, you know? And that's what I don't like. That's what the world is. That's what people are. There's not a lot of people out there like you, Steve. This is what you have to realize and understand, okay? You know, a lot of people are not as open-hearted and as transparent as you, okay? Or as trustworthy or honest, right? A lot of people are fucking deceptive, dude. That's the truth, bro, because everyone's living in the universe that this capitalistic, creative, imaginative framework of many different services, products, news stories, and events has created the combined neurochemical electrical state of humanity on Earth. Okay, because you know it's not an isolated event, it's not an isolated experience. I can introduce you to someone that can fuck up your neurology, okay, and give you some bad memories that'll
Oh,
haunt you in the future.
I know.
Okay,
I the type of I've been in rooms where you had some pretty in-depth people and what they were talking about. I'm like, that's next
no, I'm
level.
not speaking about anyone I particularly know, but I'm saying technically, theoretically speaking, I
Yes,
could introduce you to
hypothetically.
people.
Yeah.
The people that could fuck your brain's chemical brain state over,
Oh yeah.
fuck your emotions over, and that's gonna fuck up your future, right? Because if
Yeah.
someone causes enough trauma in you now, it's gonna stick around, okay, into the future. So I'm very pedantic. Then this is where you know I'm more about track record and less about immediate appearances. You know, I'm more about more of a long-term analysis of someone's behavioral track record, as opposed to giving them trust over immediate appearances, which is my advice to anyone, because this is the world we live in, dude. It happens all the time. You know the word sycophant? Um, to be a sycophant is when you highly regard someone because of their social status or standing. So you emotionally treat them differently. You basically put them on a pedestal and treat them as such. Okay. And that's the world we live in. That is vast majority of people, and a lot of people would like to say that's not true. Are you sure that's not true? Fine, let's be sitting at a braai or a barbecue and bring a really successful person in with a nice fucking car, and let's start seeing how people start treating him differently compared to other people there.
That
Okay?
happened. A perfect example is I tried not to pay attention to politics and news as much as possible. Still see it the odd time, right? So with the court cases in the States with Trump, they cleared out the entire courtroom while he entered with Secret Service. Like that's next level, man. Like he doesn't need that type of royal treatment. If
Okay, look, that's more of an extreme example, but it is
it
still a
is,
good example
it's
nonetheless.
still it's
Um,
perfect example. Yeah.
but the point is that, we this is a society we live in, is like people are more likely to trust you based on your appearance. That's just the society we live in. So I'm veering away from that. And the reason I went into all of this is because as a social media company, I don't want my product to influence people to behave that way. In fact, I want them to influence them to behave the opposite way, which is why the whole reward thing of you being, and like someone like Steve would get a star phone, you know, because we like Steve. He's a good individual. He's honest. He's sincere, you know, no skeletons in his closet.
I try my
He's a
best.
nice person that thinks about other people, thinks about humanity, how to make the world better. These are the certain behavior, content creators, uh, and people we want to reward. You see, whereas these other social media platforms are rewarding the people that create the most addictive, entertaining nonsense.
I
It
see
has
it
no
all the
value.
time when I'm out traveling and out and about, just running errands. People are glued to their phones. They did a lot of psychological research on consciousness to know how to gear it to become as addictive as possible. Like Instagram, it's in the name. Instagram, it's a drug. It's an instant addiction. It's just scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. They're glued to it. They're rewiring
Yeah,
every
look, some
circuit.
people are. I'm personally not because I don't find that content to be enjoyable. The thing is, you can have, look, that's their choice in creating an addictive experience. Because at the end of the day, your application needs to retain user retention or your product, and it's competing against other companies that are using these cheap tactics, whether it's showing beautiful people, half naked chicks, um, lifestyles, and the more fake aspect of reality, the fakeness of reality, that's what they promote. Why do you think influencers are synonymous with being fake, right? Because that's what the fake application rewards. They reward that sort of content. So my
Fugazi,
thing is like, what
artificial.
would
Yeah.
so my thing is, well, what would happen if you reward the opposite content? That gave an enriching experience and feeling. Like for instance, like there's many podcasts out there. A lot of them are such trash and shit. I would watch a podcast like this. Okay, podcast. I enjoy your podcast, right? Because I get more from them than these other podcasts about complete and total utter nonsense, really. And I'm not getting anything from it other than just burning time and potentially entertainment. I'm not getting any sincere warmth and all those feelings we were speaking about before. Do you know what I mean? So that's a different reward system. You see, this is rewarding quick fix dopamine. The other is rewarding, emotions, neurochemical expressions, but that are more sincere, that are more wholesome, that are more grounded,
It's like a
you know? And
butterfly. It's like a butterfly. It's slow growth, just like a tree. Nature teaches us to respect slow, steady, consistent growth. That's where that's where the true long-term success comes. And that's why I created it, because I didn't see any company like that existed. I found a niche and I wanted to be different. So I tapped into, it's like creating a new genre in any music industry, merging multiple industries, creating something that's never ever been done before. That's the vision that I had when I saw it. at first.
And look, it's like planting a tree. A tree takes 7 years to grow and it takes love and care. But at the end of those 7 years, dude, and 7 years is an extreme example, if I had to create an app for 7 years, oof, that would kill me. But, we shouldn't be so aversive to time. We should really see time as a way to invest in ourselves, as opposed to seeing time as like, oh, more work, more time to work. Oh, that scares me. Let me stay away from that. So the tree is like, at the end of the day, after 7 years, if you plant a freaking orange tree or an apple tree or avocado tree, dude, after those 7 years, every single year, and sometimes more than once a year, depending on the fruit of the tree, you're going to get fruit from that tree every single year after
Planting
that,
seeds.
right? You're going to get fruit. You're gonna get sustenance and food for a very long time after those 7 years, every single year after those 7 years, right? So, that's the personality we have to have, is like we have to be prepared to plant the tree and nurture it, right? To get the fruit, and hey, that's one tree. Maybe you want 100, okay? Different story, different scale. But the point is, whether it's one tree or 100 trees, that's nurturing. That's work. That's patience and persistence, endurance, and work,
What's
right?
your
So,
motto again? On WhatsApp, it's persistence. 3 words.
I'll just read it to you now because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I wrote this.
Yeah,
Emboldened, persistent resilience.
I saw that. I had to message you because it's amazing, man. You have such an eloquent way of expressing with such with such detail. And that's the thing about when people expand their minds, they also expand their verbiage, and you can tell people are going places when they do self-development. When they work on themselves, it's the best investment. Consciousness, right? Because that creates how far you can actually go in life, what you can achieve.
Yeah, and look, and it is important to work on yourself, but there's different types of self-development. The one is acquiring knowledge, but it's like how much knowledge are you going to acquire before you start implementing it into something that you're creating? Because we can sit around and have tons of books we've read, but what is it going to, you're just consuming, at the end of the day, you're consuming instead of creating. So if you want to invest in yourself through consumption, find a balance between consumption and production, you know,
Thank you.
uh, because what is the point of acquiring all the amazing, fantastical knowledge, okay, when you can't implement it into something, when you can't bring it forth and create it into something? And that's something I told myself at a certain point because I was so hungry for knowledge and self-development through knowledge. And at the end of the day, I didn't really have anything physical to show for it, you know? And I was like, shit, I feel like I've wasted my time. So I had to bite my tongue and choose to do the more difficult things that I would stay away from because it's easy to consume knowledge as opposed to implementing knowledge, you know? It's way easier to consume than to produce. So we generally tend to psychologically be more prone to seeing consumption as our way to succeed. And then we are aversive towards production,
Because
okay?
it's how
Because production
society,
involves learning new stuff, gaining new skills, working on something every day. Like for instance, programming, right? I'm learning every single day. Sometimes I have to learn an entire new technology. Okay. Sometimes it's fucking, excuse my language, but it's fucking frustrating. Okay. It's painful. Okay. I want
growth
to be so
initiative.
totally honest with you because this is what developers don't speak about. When I started programming, um, you know, I wanted to see what people's honest opinion was about the experience of it. And it's like no one out there just like, look, it's totally possible to do. Anyone can learn it. I'm never going to take that away from that being the truth. But, people also got to be honest with you and be like, hey, this shit's fucking difficult. So this thing takes emboldened, persistent resilience. Okay. You know? And that's why I have that in my status
Yeah.
because that's the mode I'm in. I need to be resilient. I need to be persistent. So, I had to psychologically program myself away from being aversive towards challenges. And that's what us humans do. We don't like challenges. We stay away from them. And because we do that, we don't see ourselves as being able to accomplish those challenges or complete them, which is wrong. That's a lie. That's a complete and total lie. I used to tell myself that before programming. I would look for other easier routes of having an open door for me, fake it until you make it, getting investment, and until I realized that was all complete and total bullshit and would never allow me to create my vision into reality if there are other people's fingers stirring the pot.
Like Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, because there's so many
Yeah,
business owners that go on there and they have amazing, fantastic products. But as soon as a shark or a dragon gets their fingers in the pot, then they start having control over the future projection of how the entire project unfolds.
and
Because
they have control over you,
bingo.
okay? Okay, which is the worst thing about it. is like it's so bad, dude. It's like, oh yeah, I want to become an entrepreneur so that I can be free. But now I want to get investments so I can be not free. Okay. What? No, no. You see what I'm saying, dude? The whole approach to this is wrong. Let me get the investment because that solves me of having to learn the difficult, hard stuff, which is really rewarding because when you actually make the choice to learn and apply the difficult, hard stuff, you're upskilling yourself, dude. Because you made the fucking choice that, like the lady in your last video said, you have to choose to do the things that other people are not willing to choose.
To have the
Okay?
results that most people never have because most people
Don't.
don't want to do
Exactly,
the
right?
thing.
So
Yeah.
so you got to choose the stuff that you would generally stay away from. Like, oh yeah, let me find someone else to do this for me. Yeah, I mean, if it's feasible and it's something small, but if it's the core of what you want to do, rather upskill, dude, you know, because okay, knowledge is great when your skills increase. So, I said, listen, I'm not bashing consumption of knowledge. That's really important, but you have to do it in a way that allows you to execute that what you've consumed, you
Yes.
know? So, so the great thing about knowledge, practical knowledge, like for instance, using AI to learn programming or whatever, it's like every time you do it, bro, you are upskilling your ability to do that. Okay. And you're walking away with an increased technical ability that is making you more abundant in your self-sufficient, resourceful nature, which is extremely valuable. And which is why most people that get into startups or business will look at the easy way out because we're aversive towards the challenges, as I said. And they'll look at the easy way out and saying, well, let me just get somebody to give me fucking money so that I can pay someone to do this. It's like, it's like, nah, dude. It's like, listen, if me and you had to compete, my product's going to be better than yours because your product was inspired by profit, mine was inspired by passion, as we discussed
Money,
the other day.
money just creates options, but it doesn't necessarily create quality. Like we were talking about how you use AI tools and you have to learn different ones. A friend of mine, he knew he had a strong inclination that Grok was going to be far superior to what's the other really popular one that most people
ChatGPT.
ChatGTP. Yeah. Yeah, he knew. He knew, and you dive into all these technologies. You do a deep
Yeah,
dive
and
into
look,
them.
with the conception of AI, we can learn so much practical stuff. It's like, what are you using AI for? Are you using AI to learn, develop, and create, or are you using it for entertainment purposes? There's two types of users of AI. And it's like, yo, listen, before it turns into a potential demonic tech overlord god, um, make the most of it. You know, Figure out how it can make you money, how it can bring your dreams and passions into reality. Because it's an excellent, unbelievable tool that is making it really, really possible for people to do stuff that would otherwise be impossible before. You know, like, this panel I'm working on now, which if I can share a screen, I can show you. Can I share a screen?
That is an excellent question.
Oh, I can, yeah.
You can? Perfect.
Yeah. So let me just do this. Can you see my screen?
Double click to enter.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. It just shows a black screen. Yeah, we're good.
Excellent. So what the hell? Why are you covering? Oh, see, bad technology, dude. Now this is anyway. Really? Come on, man.
If not, keep it under wraps.
No, it's working.
Leave it
It's
as a
working.
surprise. It's working?
Yeah, look, I'm not showing you the bulk of what I'm doing. I'm just showing you a section,
Yeah.
which I have to work on quite a lot to get it up to the quality standard that I'm aiming for. But this is a product upload section. So you add your images, your title, your pricing, your description. Okay. Now, unfortunately, what's happening is screen sharing is messing up my, there we go. It's supposed to work like that. Screen sharing is messing up my computer's CPU, so that first animation wasn't too good. So, like animations, panel animations, like just to do that. That's a lot of code, dude. That's 2000, 2000 lines of code. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
you know, this panel alone is like just to do that. You see where the color's highlighted?
Yeah.
And then when we do that, click off it, it's no longer highlighted because it's in focus.
Yeah.
We add a new one, it's empty, so it becomes a warning color.
Yeah.
We add a new one, we're able to reorder them. Add another one. Oh, can't add it because this field's empty.
What language is it
Add
running in the background? Is it C sharp or is it?
This is C sharp, yeah.
It is C sharp.
Deletion, animations, you know, button transitions, panel animations. This is another one. So I'm not happy with this design, but I'm just focusing on the functionality until I rework the design to bring out as much quality as possible. But for now, this is just getting the functionality to work out of the way, Like this is quite extensive. These are different selections, being able to select different product variants. There's a lot of code that goes into seemingly simple stuff like this, adding images for variants, clothing size variants, which no e-commerce platform I've seen do this yet. Which if you are selling clothing, you can choose a clothing category. And by the way, the resolution of this is not going to look too clear because of the emulator I'm using. It's going to show it at a different pixel quality. The pixel quality is supposed to be like that, basically. This is 100%. But you won't see it now because a phone has far more pixels per inch in it than a laptop, right?
Oh yeah.
Because it's a smaller screen with the same pixel density and resolution. So anyway, so like here you can choose like jackets for men, and you can actually select options you have available, extra small, plus size, and you can actually go ahead and edit the measurements of chest, waist, shoulder, sleeve, right? So this will be one of the few social media applications / e-commerce platforms that actually allow you to actually upload a product on a phone and actually upload a style sheet with that product. Because e-commerce platforms don't let you do that. The only one that does is Shopify.
Yeah.
But that's for websites. It's not like letting you sell on a platform. So, I have to work on my design quite a bit. You see that animates up there when that's not right. To get it looking as good as possible. And there's just like so much stuff that's just not happening. that I have to code. It's so hectic. Like this panel is 2,000 lines of code and counting
So
because there's still bugs in it.
what's
You
your
know, like right, no.
what's your day to day like? Like I can imagine the amount of code that you're processing every day. How do you maintain emotional balance so you don't get overwhelmed or overwork yourself or get burnt out? Like where's your how do you find your center point every day?
Uh, well, look, the thing is, I have to. Sorry, just repeat that question again.
So I find myself, I can just, there's days where I can just get lost and spend a lot of time on the computer because I get so immersed in it, and I can be a workaholic because I get really passionate and just love what I do. So my question was, in your day to day, what are certain things that you'll do so that you don't get overwhelmed if you're trying to fix a problem because you're consuming so much code every single day, right? What do you do
Yeah.
to stay
So,
emotionally grounded?
so it's look, it's pretty tricky because my situation is I have to do this. No one else is going to do this for me.
Yeah.
And it requires working from when I wake up to when I go to sleep. I've just been a bit lazy lately because remember, I had schizophrenia when I was debilitating at a certain point, and I programmed my way out of schizophrenia. And when I started programming, my schizophrenia went away, uh, which I kind of miss being schizophrenic, to be honest with you, because it was really an amazing experience. Scary, but amazing, which is a
I'll
crazy thing for anyone to
I'll
say, but that's
never
the
hear that
truth.
anywhere else probably my entire life. It was kind of
Yeah.
amazing. I miss having I love
I
you, bro.
do, I do. It was, when I first had it, I was so terrified. I thought it was demons and stuff. And one of the things I said to myself was, if this is schizophrenia, this will be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I turned out to be right. And I love it when I turn out to be right, dude, with something so avant-garde and crazy, such a crazy statement like that. Like, who the fuck says to themselves, if I have schizophrenia, this because my options were either this is demonic and what these voices are saying is going to fucking happen and I'm doomed, or this is schizophrenia and this crazy, amazing, visionary, precognitive, hallucinatory experience, which is terrifying in the beginning, but so unbelievable in what I was seeing and shown and the perspectives. And I said to myself, I was like, if this is schizophrenia, this will be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was right. I was completely, totally right. So that owl at the time, it was a long owl, dude, that it took me out of the game for a year. That's how bad it got. Okay.
Oh yeah.
For a year, it's almost a year and a half. Couldn't do anything. Okay. So at the time, while going through that hull, it looked like an owl. Okay. And I just kept reminding myself of what I said to myself, which was, um, if this is schizophrenia, it'll be the best thing that ever happened to me. But at the time, it's like you need to see if that's true before you can be like, that was true. I was right. And so time has progressed, and I've been creating and programming and etc. and whatever. And I was completely, totally right. It took me into a whole new universe. It made me thousands of times more creative. And I'm not
Yeah,
going to get into why, but it just did.
because you have to
Maybe save it for that.
we program our realities, so you had to program your way out of that. Otherwise, you would have been suffering for the rest of your life.
Totally, totally. And at the time when I had it, I was listening to videos of people saying that they had this for 20 years. And it was so bad at a certain stage, I could not imagine this happening for 20 years, dude. I was like, how the hell am I gonna get through this? But and we should have another video on that because that's a whole thing on its own, dude. That
Yeah.
is something totally
An
worth
entire
exploring.
topic on its own. I'm
Okay.
gonna be diving more into topics like that for sure in the future.
But I had to get myself out of a deep, dark depression near the end of when I was healing from that. And it was a very dark and terrible depression where I was like, holy shit, I've wasted how many years? Um, you know, some of my friends are, comparing yourself to other people. And that's why I programmed my way out of it. I was like, shit, dude, I can't sit on my dream and my vision and not bring it to life. This is killing me. It's killing me to have this beautiful world in my mind that I can escape to, but still being unable to bring it into this world because I haven't even bothered sitting down and sticking to it. Okay.
That's the same thing
So
that happened with me, man. I was stuck in my head for a while, and then I snapped out of it one day, and I started getting back into it. It just rebuilt everything from scratch, and so much better now. Like mental health has increased because just staying stuck in the head and not creating. That's why a lot of people, like, we live in such a consumerism society. People are depressed because they're consuming instead of creating.
absolutely,
They're not,
absolutely.
yeah.
I completely, totally
So I
agree with that.
relate.
And I do believe consuming leads to more depression than creating leads to happiness. Because you're changing your outcome yourself, dude. You're actually sitting down and doing something about your situation, you know. So yeah, the depression I had to fight, and it goes back to being independent, right? It's like nobody's gonna get you out of and that's why I say like faking it till you make it's not great because it messes up your own psychology and your values.
Yeah.
Um, but basically like what you want to do is, you want to you got to lift the only one that's there to lift you out of your depression is you. Okay. No one is really responsible for doing that and capable of doing that other than you. Okay. So you asked me a question like, how do I deal with having to sit down and work for at least 12 hours a day? Okay. And wake up and sometimes be stuck on something that I'm stuck on for a whole day or a week that makes me scared to sometimes come back to the computer when I wake up the next morning because I'm like, shit, this next problem could be a couple hours. I don't know how long, you know.
You
But when you
ever,
solve the problem, it is such an unbelievably good feeling. Okay. It's an amazing W.
yeah.
It's just like, yes. Okay. It's such a good reward system. It's an actual tangible reward system, right? So I'm a bit lazy right now because I came out of the schizophrenic stuff. So I should actually be exercising every morning, which would vastly increase my mental states, you know?
There's links to the size of your leg muscles to the size of your hippocampus. It's great for depression, mental health. Actually exercising releases hope molecules into your body because the only way that those chemicals can get in is through the contraction of the muscles into the bloodstream, and it's a cure for depression. If you're stressed or anxious, go for a walk.
Absolutely. And it totally, completely is. If you're going through depression, exercise. That's the best way to cure it, right? There's no other better way,
Gotcha.
Exercise immediately cures it, okay? Immediately changes the outlook of your day, you know? But I've just been so fucking lazy where I'm like, I wake up, have a smoke, because I smoke now. I'm unhealthy. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have a I'm living in a pr unhealthy programmer world, right? Where I'm isolated. I'm in a dark room like this, and I'm working every single day and maybe the reason I do that is because it's addictive to get results. Like the more code I have done, the closer I am to having my own complete products,
Well,
you know?
this is something that a lot of people don't realize too, is that on your way to achieving success, you're gonna have a lot of moments where you are completely unbalanced. You just admitted it, and thank you for that clarity because this attracts authenticity, like people that actually want to use the end user results in the product because you're open, honest about it, right? There was times where I
Look,
was just like totally emotionally unhinged and unbalanced. It's stuck in a dark room and just coding and collecting and working and problem solving, right? But that's part of this. People don't understand what is required. Like you have to do what you got to do.
and most people are not honest about it. Like when I started programming, I wanted to find out what the experience of programmers were, but I think a lot of programmers are too prideful to tell you the truth. The truth is, And program is an example. This could apply to anything, you know. The truth is, like, I'm not going to pretend to have all my ducks in a row and to be some fucking amazing genius, you know. I'm not. I'm just another guy with a vision and a dream trying to make it happen. And I deal with emotions and shit like everybody else. Okay. It's like, you got to be humble. And part of being humble is bringing yourself down to earth to being like, yo, you're immortal. You're in a state of entropy. Remember that. Okay. So anything over and above that is amazing. It's great, but I'm not infallible. Okay. You know, I'm not a fucking new age god. Okay. I'm human. Okay. I'm a human being, right? And every day I gotta wake up and I gotta get my mind into shape. I gotta fight my depression if there is any, because it comes and goes. Sometimes it's better than others, Um, and obviously, having a more complete product makes me less depressed because, I want to have a future according to my own design. I want to live this future with my future universe that I've created in this universe. That is my dream. That is my goal. I need to achieve that. If I don't achieve that and I don't make concerted efforts and steps to achieving that and I don't progress in achieving it, that's going to depress me you know, because I'm sitting on something great and I want to change my life. So who's going to change it other than me? And changing it it's not just like, it's not easy. It is easy, but it's also fucking difficult.
Not
Okay. It's
it,
both.
it's easy, but it's not simple. Yeah.
Look, it's emboldened, persistent resilience is what it is, right? That's what,
So
okay.
I
Because
did
at
it
the
backwards. It's simple, but it's not easy. The concept is simple, but yeah.
It's both. No, it's both, dude, because it is easy to sit down and start doing something, but we make it so overcomplicated. But what you may start doing may be difficult, but the more you keep doing it, the easier it becomes. So it's both difficult and easy. I don't want to disencourage people from doing the difficult things that need to be done, because at the end of the day, you have to, the more difficult what you're doing is the better of a sign that you're in the right direction, to be totally honest with you, right? Because most people are not going to choose the things of increased complexity. They're going to choose the shortcuts. Okay. So my whole thing is like lately, like I try to get some sunlight. I smoke, I drink some energy drinks every now and again. Not as much as I used to. I smoke because smoking right now is like an escape. I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's a fucking escape. But in the morning, when because it's like you got to bring yourself back to the computer. On the one end, it's like the passionate amazingness. On the other end, it's like, oh, this is frustrating. This is horrible.
Yeah,
Um,
could be.
you know, but it's ebbs and flows. Uh, it ebbs and flows based on the complexity and difficulty and time it takes to accomplish something and get that next W. Um, but sometimes I have a smoke in the morning because it lights up my brain and wakes up my brain, and immediately like I'm like, sweet, I'm ready to sit down and get back to doing this
I remember
because
those
that's
days
what
in college, coffee and a cigarette in the morning. Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly it, coffee and a cigarette, because that's what it is, dude. When you have to get up and do something every single day of the week for at least 12 hours a day, okay? And sometimes it's scary having to come back to the computer because you don't know if you're going to be stuck in something. Okay. So it's a constant battle. It's a constant psychological, emotional battle. And it's not perfect, but you get better at it the more you do it. The more you stick to it, the easier it becomes to regulate your emotions, regulate your positivity, regulate your positive outlook, because sometimes your positive outlook's not positive, it's negative. So one of the things I had to learn how to do was to embrace my depression and get used to it and get comfortable with it, which actually helped a lot, was getting comfortable with being depressed, which actually made me less
Great.
depressed.
Embracing the moment instead of fighting it and fighting the
Embracing the
system.
shit stuff too.
Yeah, embrace
Okay.
the shit. Yeah.
embrace the shit stuff. You don't have, what else? You can avoid it, or you can embrace it and absorb it, assimilate it, and
Yeah.
turn that into fuel to help you grow. Like sometimes I'm in South Africa, so I see dirty streets, poverty, and it just reminds me of not being where I want to be in life. And so it creates a certain vibe of past memories in my life that are very like the opposite of inspiring. And so what I do with those is I turn that into fuel. I turn that if somebody's an asshole to me and does discounts what I'm doing or doesn't believe what I'm doing or slights me, with some snarky comment, I turn that into fuel. I say to myself, I'm like, thanks for the fuel for the fire, because you're just gonna burn the fire more. And every time I get that shitty feeling, it gets me to be like, fuck this shit, keep working, keep doing this. Okay. So the great thing about being depressed is that being depressed doesn't stop you from working.
If
Okay.
if you
I
rearrange
can
the
sit.
letters in depression, you get I pressed on. It reminds me when I was at a leadership event, they were giving it, the speaker gave a talk about turn your rejection into an energy. You're gonna have critics, you're gonna have rejection. If you're doing something worthwhile, that's gonna be a game changer. Like if you're not making waves, you don't have critics. It's as simple as that, right?
And that's the battle we fight in our head is like, oh yeah, are you busy thinking about other people looking at you and seeing if you're gonna fail because they're wishing on your downfall? And it's like all these psychological schisms in our head from these perceived perceptions of other people. And it's like, yeah, that's fuel, but sometimes it's also like you need to evolve beyond it, to where it's like, I'm not thinking about that anymore. I was watching this while I was working this show called Fish Tank by Sam Hyde. Um, and he asked them to all speak about their life, and they were speaking about their past and shit. And he came to them and he was like, "Do you guys always think about your past and speak about it and whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do." And he's like, "Yeah, well, that's such loser shit." Okay. And
Stuck.
it's so funny because they got them to speak about their lives, so they naturally
Yeah.
spoke about their past. And then he's like, "Do you guys always do this?" And he's like, "Yeah." It's like that's such loser shit, hopping on some shit that happened when you're a teenager or when you're in your young 20s, whatever. And I was like, "Damn, that's so true, dude." Because like, if you've got stuff going for you and you're working on something and you've got momentum, or you're developing momentum or working on developing momentum, you're not thinking about stuff in the past, dude. That's weighing you down, dragging you down.
And that's just the thing. Joe Rogan did a talk about that on his podcast about people who are always, oh, the good old days when things were so great and this. It's like, get me away from those people because they're not inspiring. People don't realize that everything is an energetic exchange, and some people uh, unconsciously can, like, we're batteries, right? We're electrical, there's charges. So we're a saltwater battery, and being around people who are constantly complaining or living in the past about how things were can feel fucking draining, man. Honestly, like, and that's the thing with
It
vision. You
is.
got to stay focused and persistent, and hang around people that also have a vision that aligns. Because if you're not, it'll throw you off balance. Especially if you know what you're talking about, people that you know what you want. If you start doing stuff that other people think is in your best interest, it's going to screw up your entire projection of your future plans.
Yeah, and look, when somebody kills inspiration because they're just like so negative, that also is inspiring. There's something inspiring about that, because it's like because it makes you fear the fucking reality that they're used to. You're like, whoa, I don't want that. Okay. You know, like what you believe is possible, I don't want that. Okay. That inspires me to do because it becomes believable. They sell it to you, it can influence you. And I see it as inspiration because it scares the shit out of me to be like, I don't want that. I don't believe in that. I'm gonna keep doing the opposite. Okay. So yeah, because the thing is, like, we can't be so totally scared of people who are downers, because the world, we live in a bit of a downer of a world and an upper of a world, so there are going to be people like that, and it doesn't mean we should run away from them or be scared of them. Um, but just
It's
to
motivation. It is motivation too,
should
because
motivate you, should
there's
scare the shit out of you.
yeah, if all the doom and gloomers, it's just like, okay, well, that's one possibility. So if we get enough people, what's it called? Critical mass without critical mass in quantum physics, just a small group of people come together, they create a massive change, and so boom, suddenly the timeline flips and we're in a new reality. Instead of all the people who are doom and glooming on social media but not doing anything about it. Right? So yeah, it's motivating. It's positive, like it's an inspiration in a way, right?
Yeah, it's an inspiration because it scares you. It's like, dude, I don't want to get stuck in this vibe. I don't want to get stuck in this reality. You're just reminding me of why I can't succeed. Uh, you know? And it's like, that scares me, and it scares me enough to be like, cool, what do you do when you're scared? Work. Okay. Work.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
Team Fearless, or a meme I saw one time. It's just like nobody cares. Work harder.
yeah, I mean that's the truth, that's
Yeah,
so totally true. But look, it is really good to be around the opposite of that, which is the people who are inspiring, you know. Um, they're far and few, and I think once you become more established, you have more power to engineer your lifestyle, and part of engineering your lifestyle means engineering who you are uh, uh, in access to, what sort of people you're exposed to,
yeah,
within certain industries and whatever, and I've met some really inspiring people in the tech industry, who are just really inspiring people, and um, and they just leave you with the feeling that it is totally possible. It's normal to believe it's possible. It's not a stretch of the imagination. Um, and the sort of people that would want to hear your vision, they would want to hear what you want to express. Like you get two types of people who you could tell your dreams to. And the one would be like the person that judges you for it. Okay. And they're like, why is this person making it all about them and blah, 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 and why are they telling their dream and da, 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 da. And somebody who actually is engaging and listening, and encouraging your dream, okay, or being honest with you, you know, but the other person's just not fucking interested at all, just doesn't give a shit, um, doesn't care. And the other person is the sort of person that doesn't discourage people from dreaming. The one discourages people from dreaming, the other doesn't. And those people that discourage you, if your mind's not strong, can mess up your psyche, can mess up your motivation, can mess up your productivity. I'm not going to lie and say that's not the case. So, it's up to you to flip that and to be like, yeah, let me prove you wrong or something, or just prove the opposite of that to be true, you know. Um, like I've had some guy that I showed my app to, a friend of mine, and he's like, yo, why don't you do something else? And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you speaking about? I've
you
been
didn't see the
working on this
vision.
for over a year. Okay. Look, like if I showed you the rest of the stuff, okay, because what I showed you is so boring and so ugly right now, to be totally honest with you. But the rest of the stuff's magical because I've developed it to that high standard, and it's super creative and fun and colorful. I just can't show it to you right now. Um, well, I can show it to you in private after this call, um, but I can't show it in publicly. But if I showed it to you, you'd be like, wow, this is amazing. Now, I'm confident you would say that because I know it is at that level. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying what I showed you now, I'm not happy with at all. I'm still working on it to get it to where I'm happy with it. Um, that's what I'm saying. I'm just getting the core functionality out of the way because the cosmetic stuff and the minor details are like, you save that for later sometimes, because I don't want to get stuck in complicated back-end logic and then I'm stuck on design, at the same time. It's like, no, leave the design looking somewhat shitty. Just get the core functionality out of the way. Once the core functionality is perfected, go back to the design, perfect the design.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's
aesthetics come after the core programming is done. Should always be done.
sometimes before, okay, because that's how
Really?
I work. It depends. Yeah, no, totally. Because I do front end and back end. So sometimes I'll design the front end, and it'll be perfect off the bat, and then sometimes I'll design the front end, and then later on I'm like, oh shit, damn, this needs to get reworked. So for me, it works both ways. I could have the front end being perfected, like for instance, a music cue I created, the design was perfected straight off the bat. Then it was just the functionality after that. In this case, I did the front end, and um, in this page that I showed you now, this is a single page with thousands and thousands of lines of code. And then it's like, oh, fuck, I'm not happy with the front end. I'll have to go back and rework that, but let me get the functionality out of the way before I go back to there. So it's ebb and a flow.
So
But anyway,
after the product, after you have the idea for the product and it gets developed and you start implementing it, how did you draw people in? Like, did you do marketing or did people start coming to you, seeing it when that one video went viral? Is that how you grew it so big, or did you have a team of people pushing content out to increase awareness and
no,
grow the
look,
network?
okay, this is YouTube advice, right? But before I get to YouTube advice, I just want to give advice from this standpoint. So I showed this guy all my amazing stuff, which is amazing, and I'm absolutely sure you will agree once I show it to you after this. And he doesn't see a full year of development gone into this, and instead he's like, "Yo, just abandon your year of work to do something else." Um, and it's whereas everyone else I've shown it to is like, "Wow, this is amazing." Okay. Um, but he's just a negative fucking person. Okay. So the first day that he said that, it just fucked with me. It's just like, and it can fuck with you. What I'm saying is don't let it fuck with you, overcome it. Don't fucking listen to what people gotta say, because at the end of the day, he can't fucking code shit. He can't create nothing. Okay. I can. Now, a lot of people are experts in tech, but they don't know how to fucking create tech. You don't listen to them, okay? You don't listen to people who are speculative upon what you want to do and are not experts on what you want to do in
Lots of
having experience in doing it. You don't
lots.
listen to those fucking people. You don't do it because they're going to give you the worst fucking advice ever. They're not going to give you the advice from someone who's in the industry, who does what they do, who knows how difficult it is, and it's like, wow, no, this is great, impressive. Okay.
Hey Jesse, have you ever
Anyway,
heard
so
the saying that opinions are like assholes, everybody has one? And unless
yes,
you ask
absolutely,
to
right.
see it, I don't want to because they stink.
Yeah. So going back to your second question, how did I get momentum on that?
Yeah.
It was a right time, right place situation. Um, uh, and also the other thing was I was speaking about stuff on the conspiracy end of things, but I was polishing it up, my production, as best as I could, as far as you'd want to with YouTube developed productions. I mean, it's not a movie. It's not a multi-million dollar project. It's something you're editing and producing yourself.
But it's very
So
professionally done. The intro, the way you had the audio set up, all of it. Like you put a lot of time into editing. Editing
yeah, I did,
the
and
whole
I
production.
would put in days, weeks of editing sometimes. I prefer putting that much time into programming right now, because a video is like you create a great video that took you weeks of development, and it does well. Uh, but it doesn't. It's not like it's software where you've spent weeks developing a panel and that it stays. It doesn't go away. It's like the video comes and goes with people's interest and consumption of it. Unless it's an incredible movie, okay, that's so iconic that people will watch for years to come. So, what I did was, I guess because I put a lot into the editing, but what I noticed with YouTube is like, you can make something really good, but if it's not right time, right place, and the algorithm doesn't pick you, dude, all that work it can be for nothing. Okay, I don't want to discourage you. It can be for nothing. Okay, I'm gonna be so totally honest with you. That's why I kind of got over. I haven't made a high production video in years. Okay, because it's like I'm gonna spend all my time and effort in this, and like, and I don't want to disencourage. And some people have the complete, totally opposite effect. They've got tons of users, consistent growth. Um, but and so then making a high value production makes sense, because it's going to be around for a while. It's got traffic. It's people are going to watch it. All that time and effort makes total sense. It's financially reimbursing your time accordingly. But you don't have to do that. So how did I was the right time, right place situation, and what I was doing was I was sending links into Facebook groups all the time. Okay of my YouTube videos,
You were
groups
using
relative towards
other
my
people,
topic. Okay.
like how Warren Buffett uses other people's money. It's the concept of other people's platforms tapping into other market bases for expansion. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And I was basically looking at, let's call it conspiracy Facebook groups because I knew our audience would be there. And I was sharing, sharing, sharing. And I guess also a combination of it being during COVID or the beginning of COVID. You know, I'm not going to lie to you and say I have like a surefire method of success on YouTube. I don't. I fucking don't, dude. Okay. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay. Which is why I'm creating my own YouTube in my own platform. Okay. Right now. Because I don't want to rely on other people's platforms and algorithms. Okay. So when my app's ready, you'll be one of the top content creators. I can guarantee you that. On there. You know. And I'll get a lot more excited once I show you. Um, but you'll be, but you'll get high visibility, you know, and lots of traction and a way to actually turn it into financial gain, because if that's what you're spending all your time doing, it has to pay you. Otherwise, what the fuck are you doing? You need to stay
Exactly.
alive. You need to grow. You need to invest in yourself. So my app does all of that because it allows you to get money quite easily in many different ways, including e-commerce, um, including donations, including paywalls, um, including having other people sell their products through your page, um, and a lot of other clever ways. Another thing that I'm doing is I'm actually paying people for the ads that they watch.
Nice.
Um, so every ad you watch, you will get paid for. Okay, you'll get some money. Um, you know. So I'm finding many different ways for this app to make people money, um, easily, right? And so basically, like let's say on your page, you've got pictures, TikTok style videos, YouTube style videos, music, podcasts, and your store. Okay. And that's why I say it's like five different apps in one app. Um, but basically, so it's all in one space. It's like it's a super app in that regard, because it brings every app into one app. You won't need to use another app once you use my app. Um, but basically, um, so you'll be able to choose if you want to see ads from Steve. Okay. You as Steve will be able to give people that option to choose whether or not they want to support you by watching ads. Okay. Which is really a bit psychological, a bit woo. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, obviously I want them to see my ads, but I want, as a platform owner and developer, I want people to have the option to choose whether their creator that they want to support through watching their ads. And so you can think about it, it's a more targeted ad because if the user's actually opting in to the ad, okay, um, their engagement's going to be different than an ad they didn't opt into. You know, it's like an unwanted YouTube ad versus a wanted YouTube ad. Okay. So the quality of that ad space becomes increased. The value of that ad space becomes increased because it's not an unwanted ad that's unsuspectingly trying to catch you. No, it's an ad that I know when I watch, I get some money from, and my creator, Steve, who I like, gets money from, right? So, so that's one aspect, you know, you'll get uh, money from every product bought from your page. And they may not all be your products because you can have other people's products in your page,
Yeah, that's the plan.
right?
Yeah.
So, and you can be like, oh, if you want to buy this product, please do. I get a percentage or whatever, right? So similar to what people do already, but it's already integrated into your profile,
Question
if that
about
makes
that
sense.
real quick. So
Yeah.
a lot of health influencers, they offer discounts on social media. Like if you use
Yeah.
this code, you get 10 or 20% off, 50% off. How 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 is the company partnering with them to give them the discount and then also pay them per product? Like how does that negotiated at a corporate level? Because a lot of
Look,
companies are doing that now.
I don't know the specifics of that, but obviously their profit margin allows them to discount and actually pay the creator. And maybe from their perspective, creating it's a form of advertising and sales combined into one thing. So it's a form of increased visibility and increased brand recognition and recall. So it's more value than just the sale of a product. So maybe providing the discounts still is well within their expected range of profitable markup that allows them to still create a profit for themselves and also be able to give a profit to the creator for the fact that the creator is introducing new people towards their product. And obviously, they will focus on client retention, you know, because if I introduce you to a new tea or a coffee and you become someone who buys it monthly, then it was totally worth that first discount, you know.
So I had an idea of how to,
Or NordVPN,
yeah,
fucking the discount is so totally worth it because for the company, because yeah, you'll get a discount for a year's supply, but we still got you as a customer.
yeah, I had an idea of working with famous influencer, but the chances of me actually connecting with them, that's a whole nother story. But increasing the quality and decreasing the price so more people can afford it actually expands the market. It increases the overall profit margin. So I think that if I'm seeing this correctly, offering that discount, they get more influencers pushing it, more sales volume. So even though they're losing a tiny little bit, they're actually increasing the sales so they can afford to also pay the influencers to, however they want to do it per product or a certain
Look, most
percentage, right?
companies have to advertise and market. And
Yeah.
you know, that's another thing that you have to think about when you'd want to create a really big, successful business is like, does my product rely on shit tons of marketing? Okay. Especially in the beginning, because if it doesn't, it's a really good product. You know, for instance, like Instagram advertised itself, never seen an Instagram ad. You
No.
know, I just saw people who advertise Instagram for Instagram free of charge. Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Word of mouth marketing.
You know, but a lot of companies are not their own platform that sticks around. This is why I love platforms. So they do rely on having to stay relevant. They don't have users continual. Look, like selling a herbal tea or you know, it's difficult because every product's different, right? But some companies they have to keep advertising, dude, because if they don't, their sales go down. You know, they less people know about their product, they become irrelevant all of a sudden. Like
So
they become
competitive.
forgotten,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm not saying that advertising is bad. It's really good if you've got the cash to, but as a startup, you don't want to rely on it. Once you've got the cash coming in, then you do, you know? So, for me, like, as I said, I'm trained in advertising. So if I had tons of cash to advertise our product, if my product was really good and I was happy with it, I would make some really awesome campaigns. But I don't have that option right now as a bootstrapper. So my goal is to make the product as immersive and creative enough to sell itself and put stuff in it to drive users to sell it for me.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of creativity involved with solving those problems. So, so but I mean, I hope that answers what you're saying. But basically, like a lot of companies they have to advertise and market, dude. Otherwise, they become irrelevant, dude. Like, what's a good example? Like Raycon, earphones. Raycon.
Remind me, it rings a
Raycon
bell.
are those earphones that just stick on your ear, like those earbuds. Uh, anyway, a lot of YouTubers have advertised for Raycon as sponsored content. Um, and if Raycon doesn't keep doing that, people will forget about it because there's been times where I've forgotten about Raycon and I remember it when I see an ad, you know. But you don't forget about Apple because Apple's in a completely different category,
Have you ever heard of Jawbone Bluetooth headsets by chance?
No, no, no.
So they were very unique in the sense that it's literally in the name. So you could be sitting on a tractor, and it based on your vibrational frequencies of the jaw, it would cancel out the engine and all the background noise because there's a lot of technologies that claim to have noise canceling technology, but they just don't work as effective. So Jawbone, I had to scour the internet, found a piece on Amazon, but it doesn't hold the charge anymore. The amazing technology. No one else has thought of to innovate like that. They hold the patent for it. I haven't seen any other technology that utilizes that aspect.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And there's a lot of amazing products out there that do some really cool things. I guess going back to where this conversation started in the beginning, is like how many of those products do you really care about because it's so inspiring and amazing? Like going back to Earth United, one thing I did do successfully with Earth United, like I can't explain the virality because the virality was determined by a lot of external factors, like YouTube and algorithms and etc., and right time, right place. But one thing I was good at was selling a vision. Unfortunately, the vision I was selling didn't have a platform. So,
Yeah.
which is why I had to put it to bed. But at the end of the day, I use my marketing knowledge and combine it with YouTube to sell a vision continually. I tried to at least anyway. And I did that pretty well. But I didn't have a platform to keep the vision going. So I sold the feeling, I sold the vision, I sold something important to be a part of, important to aspire to. In this world, it's very easy to stop caring about the world, about people, about life, and just to be like, to look after yourself first and primarily, predominantly. It's very easy to lose those extremely high value altruistic values, okay, as life gets more difficult and tough and your survival instinct has to kick in more to do what you need to do to survive and hopefully one day thrive. And it's usually when people are thriving that it's a lot easier to think about others. When you're surviving, you think about yourself
That's why
mostly because
yeah, I brought up the emotional regulation part because if people, there's three parts of the brain, right? There's the neocortex, the reptilian, and the limbic system. So if people are trapped in the limbic system, they're surviving, they're like in survival mode. It's very difficult to be emotionally regulated. There's a quote that goes, emotional regulation first, analysis after, because if you reverse that order, you'll never reach regulation, which is the cause of all avoidance. It's the amygdala, right? Governs emotional resonance. And it's important to maintain that balance because we all strive for balance, but how many people actually know how to master it? Right.
Yeah, and look, survival is not the worst thing in the world. Survival states, I think they're great. I think they make you stronger, especially getting through them, overcoming it. Because when you turn your survival instinct into action, work, it can be very powerful, you know.
Yeah.
But you don't want to constantly be in a state of survival. It's depressing, right? But sometimes it's really good to be, because it gets you doing what you need to do. But as I say, like when the reason I created Star Kingdom was I have very high altruistic values, um, ideals, and of creating a better world. You know, the guy you're speaking about who wants to change 1 billion people's lives. I have the same idea. You know, I want to positively inspire the world. I figured out that in order to end world hunger, I may be wrong, but these were based on my calculations. Costs about $44 million a year,
That's it?
which is, yeah,
That's it.
yeah.
Wow.
To feed, that's to feed the amounts of people that die of starvation every day. I can't remember the exact number, but I did the math on how much a meal would cost for that. I took the number of the amounts of people who are dying of starvation every day,
Yeah.
and then I calculated how much a meal would cost, or 3 meals a day. And and then I found out it's $44 million.
That's amazing, bro. That's
Okay,
amazing.
so so I found out it's $44 million, dude.
Uh,
In order to pay for the amounts of people that are statistically dying of starvation every single day to have food, $44 million. Okay, so a year. Okay, so
pocket
I
change.
couldn't believe I couldn't believe it when I found that out. I was like, what? What the fuck, dude? All these billionaires, all these governments, all this money, dude, and you guys can't even put together $44 million?
Remember,
Um,
what was that one series? The Falcon and the you talked about it on one of your, you know what series I'm talking about, with Captain America and the Falcon or something like that, where they have the group of people that are going against the government.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was one of the
He
Captain
comes
America
in,
Civil
new
War.
Captain America came in, and he literally told the government like what they're doing wrong. He took the reins because the government had the wrong approach, like they usually do. Flag smashers.
So basically, my app, I figured out how to make a lot of money through what I'm doing, because it has like so many revenue models inside of it. So I figured out that if I get to 1 billion users, or to 1 billion users, particularly because of the e-commerce, and and foot traffic and etc. So forth, I can make up to like $20 billion a month. Okay. Um, so with that sort of money, and this is future talk, $44 million is nothing. So one of the things I want to do is set up robotic farms, completely autonomous robotic farms, and planting trees everywhere as well, and rewarding users for planting trees, fruit-bearing trees. Um, every tree you plant, you're rewarded by the app. Um, and I'm not going to get into the details because there's a really immersive experience that comes with that. But I figured if you just planted billions of fruit trees, uh, like you would solve world hunger. I mean, you really would. I told you $44 million can solve world hunger yearly. So how the fuck can not planting billions of fruit trees do that? And it's like these people they either don't care or they're really fucking stupid and they're just missing the mark. So my app, what I want to do is I want to solve world hunger. I want to clothe people, feed people. I'm creating something called Star Shops and Earth Shops integrated into the application that gives free food to people. Um, and so all my profit, the reason I've engineered it to make so much profit is so that I can spend all the profit on providing free things to people. So like phones, toys to people from the SK universe, um, cars, houses. Star cities is something I'm going to create because it fits into the SKU. Star cities of creating in impoverished areas, beautiful sort of tech self-sustainable cities for free, with free food, free internet, free devices. And so all the profit I want to get from this app, I want to spend on giving stuff away for free. Okay. And so also that's why my phones and my cars, you won't be able to buy them, because I was thinking about how do you challenge Apple? Okay, Apple's a really good company. They're actually in an extremely morally gray area, but I have to say Apple's a good company because at the end of the day, it allows uh, a platform for an application like mine to exist. So in that case, for me, it is a good company.
Well, they built the
Um,
loyalty and they have the way that the phones work. They're very the longevity and the simplicity, how smooth the technology is, how well it lasts,
Great
operates,
quality, great
amazing
design,
quality. So that's why they built such great loyalty behind it.
great quality, great design. So, but at the end of the day, a competitor, or at least yeah, a competitor, yeah. Because I was like, how do I create a phone better than Apple? Okay. Um, and how do I create a desire? Because the one challenge is creating a better quality phone, better quality software, a better quality experience, and then the other is creating the desire to interact with my brand, my star phone. Okay. Um, so I thought to myself, what if I made such an amazing phone, but you couldn't buy it? Okay. You can't buy my phone.
It makes
You,
people
you,
want it that much more if they can't buy it. Like, where do
you
I get
can't
it?
buy it. Doesn't
Where?
matter how much money. Doesn't matter how much money you have. And my
Yeah,
cars, you
yeah,
can't buy my car. It doesn't matter how much money you have.
yeah.
My car's amazing. My phone's amazing. It's beautiful. It's integrated into my software, but you can't buy it. It's not purchasable.
Yeah.
Okay. The only way you can get it is if you're rewarded it. Okay. For being a good person. Sorry, my camera's a bit blurry. I don't
It's
know
all
why it's
good.
blurry.
I sent a video of there was this ex-Navy Marine who he was explaining the actual science of magnetism, how it really works. And he developed a phone that runs on solar panels alone, right? It recharges itself. I sent that to a friend of mine. His first response was, "Where can I buy it?" And I said, well, you don't have to buy it. You can make it. Like he just showed you what it is. And this guy is an electrical engineer who studied all of Tesla's patents to create his own unit. But so you see what I mean? Like some things it doesn't matter if you have the money, you can't buy it. But if he knows enough, he can make his own or something similar to it. There's more reward if you have if you take money off the table because money is just a tool at the end of the day. Money can't buy you everything that you want, right? There's always loopholes.
Well, technically it can. But in this case, it won't be able to. So it goes back to that whole BMW. It's like
You know,
BMW is associated towards the people who drive it, their brand. It is, okay? So although we're like, wow, it'd be nice to have a BMW, it's also like, yeah, but assholes drive BMWs. But some people that overrides, they don't really care. It's just like, let me have a luxury car to drive. My thing is like, whenever you see my car, it'll be like, wow, that guy must be a really good person. Because that company only gives these cars to really good people. Okay. Not where a Porsche or a Ferrari or a BMW can have a fucking total serial killer driving.
yeah.
Um,
It's like the network
so
marketing. They give certain people that when they achieve certain levels of success, they give them the car. So you know that certain people that they are walking the talk.
yeah, the
Right?
reward system, yeah.
Yeah, it's a level of accountability and
Yeah, that's
character.
a good reward system. I mean, I'm not really into network marketing. I think it's a bit scammy, but they got good reward systems in them,
You do.
but they're just destroyed by the scamminess of them. But yeah, my app has a huge reward system. It's a huge reward system. So, the point is like, anyway, this is just future talk, but I haven't really shown you much more of it. I'm going to show you at the end of this call.
Yeah.
But yeah, is there anything else you want to discuss? And yeah, I'm really enjoying your videos, and hopefully we can
Thank you.
do another one sometime
For sure, we
where we
will. Yeah.
can speak about some more abstract topics, since
Yeah.
this one was very business orientated, whether it's AI, more strange stuff, the quantum nature of reality, variability, schizophrenia, consciousness.
Yeah.
Be totally willing to touch upon those topics and have some
All right.
really super interesting conversations. Um, but yeah, is there anything else?
I was surprised you went as deep into Star Kingdom as you did because that you wanted to keep it more on the what's the word I'm looking for? Like keep it uh keep people wondering, you know what I mean? And
Yeah, the thing is, you
don't
are still
fully reveal.
wondering.
Yeah,
Everything I've told you still doesn't tell you what I'm making.
yeah,
This is the thing. So everything I've told you is surface level. It's not a security risk for me.
yeah,
It doesn't get to the core of what I'm making. The core, I've told you a lot, but it's you could imagine anything in your head of what that is. You're just probably imagining a typical social media. No, there's a huge component that exists in it that no social media company has. Because remember, there's a 3D world. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. But what I've told you is so surface level. It's completely, totally surface level.
and at the
So
end of the
it's
day, nobody else can build it as good as you. And even if they could, they're still not they still don't have the intention or the altruistic nature or they, they're not you. So they couldn't do it as
then,
good as you.
dude, they would need my schematics. Because it's a very complex application, just in how it's designed and works. And I designed it that way so that it would be harder to steal and replicate, because it has a game dynamic to it, right? Um, and I'm going to share it with you after this call, because I trust you. But it's very complex, dude. I've told you nothing. I've just told you about bells and whistles it has, and it's kind of sad because no, not really. I'd just rather develop it and show it, because then it's going to be like, wow, this is epic, this is crazy. Because it is the next generation of social media. Um, it is the next generation of internet. Um, um, and there's a reason for that. Um, which I'm not going to get into now. Um, but just imagine I can't say it any more than that, but I'll say it afterwards. But
Yeah.
yeah, everything I've told you is pretty surface level.
Perfect. There was one other thing I wanted to get into before we do some closing talks and then close off this beautiful dialogue that we've created today. Books. So I'm working with a man. He created an amazing technique um, for himself and teaching other people. He's an ex-Navy veteran, and he created an ability to heal yourself. Wrote a book about it, hired lawyers, website, YouTube, everything. And then book sales dried up. So what, to your knowledge and background, what would be the factors causing book sales to dry up? Because it can't just be the product's not good enough. Because if he used it on himself and he knows it works, then obviously he's got a solid. So it's got to be the marketing then, right?
Look, you know, we can't say that books is not a viable market, because some books have like 10 million units in sales, Like, for instance, I think it was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. It's 10 million units. Okay, that's a lot of money. Okay, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot of money. 10 million units times the
Especially if
price
it's
of the
only a
book.
dollar in commissions is probably more than that, but if it was just a dollar, that's $10 million just
Yeah, and
for
it's not
a
just a
book.
dollar, okay?
It's more
It's
than that.
not just a
Yeah,
dollar, right? It's more. So that's a lot of money, dude. Okay. But how many book sales reach those margins, you know? Um, they are. I mean, Robert Greene, they are, you know. I'm gonna answer to the best of my knowledge because I haven't done a market analysis on the industry of books as it currently stands right now, but I'm gonna tell you what I can based on basic knowledge I have. But it
appreciate
will be inconclusive because I don't have the current insight, which I will at some point.
it. Yeah.
I would first like to know how many uh, books are actually bringing in a noteworthy profit. And when I say noteworthy, that's uh, tens of thousands of dollars or a couple $1,000s to anything that's basically made the cost of publishing and the time spent in creating the book worth it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'd want to know what categories those books are in. I'd also like to know their names, not all of them, that's too much, and their book covers, okay? Because when I see something like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, I can see how in the world we live in today, because the book's a brand, the covers of the book is a brand, it's part of the brand.
Yeah.
The title is a brand, right? Um, so all those things are important, and it's a contemporary masterpiece. I haven't read it. I'm not referring to the actual content of the book, but in the fact that and I'm not really interested in reading it, to be totally honest with you. But I can see how a title like that and a name like that and the perceived brand or the energy around it could be catchy enough to be on Oprah's wish list or reading list. Okay. That's the thing with books and stuff is like, what is your market? What is your audience? Then you've got books like written by near-death experience researchers, written by doctors, and they become bestsellers. And I'd like to know how many units they sold. Um, I'd like to know how many units they sold. Was it profitable? Was it worth the time of developing the book? Because when we look at the category you've just mentioned, it sounds like a niche category. But some of these niche categories, like near-death experiences, whatever, do really well in book sales.
Yeah.
And what I'm really just assessing is the percentage of all books created versus the percentage of profitable books. Okay, to see how viable that market actually really is. Another thing is, marketing the book is important. Okay. Of course, some books market themselves, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck marketed itself, and many famous people, I guess, marketed it or whatever. So yeah, marketing is really important and great for book sales. Okay. So the next question becomes is where do people market books? What are the results and turnovers from marketing those books? Okay, mostly we see people speaking about their books in podcasts or this or that. And so I'm curious about the conversion rates of how many of those translates into sales. Um, this is the insight I would look at initially. But yeah, I could see how a platform like mine could lead to more book sales, potentially, um, prospectively. As I said, one day I will have to actually research everything I've just asked you now to understand the market of books. But I could totally see how I could sell books so much more easier on my platform. Way easier, because it's in the author's profile, and the author's profile has TikTok type videos discussing elements of the book or podcasts related to it. And then there's a store page right there in the same profile that lets you purchase the book. and then other people can actually have that book in their wish list. Or so there's many ways I can sell books. Okay. So you know, I would say the most common methods of marketing books I've seen are obviously podcasts and people speaking about their book, people finding out about it because we're understanding the market of book readers, okay? Because they're a specific and particular type of person who are the type of person that when hearing about a book discussed in a podcast, if it's interesting enough, are the type of person to buy that book. You know, that's who we need to know
Market
about. We need to
research.
know about those people that actually, I've never purchased a book in my life. Well, I have, but from like secondhand stores and stuff. But I've never gone onto like Amazon, or I've never gone onto like, one of these sites online and purchased a book. Okay. I'm not that type of person. Okay. But there's many people out there that are. Okay. And I think just a bit off topic, Kindle was an incredible invention. I just like to really, digitize books in a very readable format.
Yeah.
Cool, really cool invention, figured out how to keep books digital. Um, don't really know how Kindle's doing now. I'm guessing it's got its markets. But I would need to find out who are these book buyers, and we can definitely say that these book buyers are watching these intellectual podcasts because they're intellectual people. I mean, if they're buying and reading books, they're intellectual people. Obviously. I mean, who the fuck cares about a book on a podcast and then goes and buys it? That's an intellectual person.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then it's like, but who also would be, because okay, you said this guy's figured out how to heal people and it works,
He's
and he's written a whole book on that.
he's healed himself after he went through trauma, and then after that he wrote a book and just hired people to take care of the marketing and everything like that.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I mean, you got to sell it, especially in that case. It's like you got to get it out there, you got
Yeah.
to sell it, you got to have it being
That's
discussed in
that's why I
podcasts and
asked
stuff.
you on our phone call if part of your company has a marketing consulting agency because that's valuable with your background and your knowledge, right? It's very valuable.
Yeah, yeah. Look, a book like that, every book's going to be different. But a book like that, I don't know the guy's story, but I'm just from a high level perspective. Yeah, I can see how his main focus should be to push um, to be on podcasts as a book author discussing how he's healed himself. So that involves developing a database of podcasters around the world, maybe giving them a short little highlight video of a synopsis of the author, maybe a video of him speaking about this and that, um, and discussing this in detail and then finding podcasters who are relative towards speaking about that sort of stuff. And there's so many podcasters out there. And then reaching out to as many of them as possible, developing a YouTube channel at the same time.
He's got the
And there's a
YouTube
reason for
channel.
that.
It's
You've got the YouTube channel.
He's got
Excellent.
the YouTube channel. That's why
Uh,
I wanted to reach out to you. And if it's okay with you, I'd love to introduce you to him as well because I can only do so much at my level. That's why I want to be working with as many different people. And it sounds like your app and everything, that could be a huge. So it's lack of action, possibly. He wasn't being on enough podcasts, pushing it enough, so that there wasn't the awareness because he doesn't want to be the guy to do all the sessions. He wants to teach it to people so they can teach it to other people and just create just have that massive ripple effect. It's
yeah,
bigger
but the
than
thing
him.
is, like, if your products are not doing that initially, you have to do that. You
Bingo.
have to be the front man. If word of mouth is not selling your products to begin with, you got to be the one, your mouth's got to sell your product, until enough people care about it for their mouth to sell it. Um, so Yeah, I mean that's my basic advice, dude. It's not any expert advice, dude, but yeah, for a case like that, if he's really serious about pushing its sales, I would also look at the branding, the cover, you know, just you know, just to make sure it's gimmicky, not gimmicky, but its sellability, its aesthetic sellability is increased, so
Yeah.
we can like visually push it a bit more.
It's visually,
And
aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, I can send you some
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
about that.
simply. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
talking about the contents of the book. I'm just talking about the cover or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. Because a lot of
Because
people
that is
judge a book by its cover. They've written books on don't judge a book by its cover too, which is funny. But yeah,
yeah, and I mean, look, that's good advice. But some people judge books by the covers, I mean,
yeah.
so
Many.
because you might have a shitty cover but great book, so
Yeah.
um but so yeah, I mean that's my basic advice. I can definitely speak to him. As I say, marketing and stuff is hard work and it's complicated and it requires persistence. But with the right channels, with the right outlets, with the right approach, with the right PR, you can make it successful, absolutely.
Yeah.
But usually that requires resources, and if you don't have those resources, financially speaking, you need to be resourceful,
Yeah.
which is making use of other people's platforms as much as possible.
So
Which I'm,
go ahead.
yeah, which is why I'm very happy that I have my app coming because then makes conversations like this so easy because then it's like, oh
Yeah.
well, let's just figure out on my platform who your audience is and how to push this in front of them and see how many of those lead to conversions,
Yeah.
and then that doesn't cost you anything. It's free.
Yeah, especially with AI integration and we want speed, smooth, and no lag, right? As quick as possible and get as much done in the least amount of time. I wanted to ask you real quick, one last question, then we'll do a final closing wrap up about in networking.
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
about what you know, it's who you know, because you don't need to know everything if you can connect someone to someone else who is an expert in that field. What are your
That's
thoughts
bad
on that?
advice, dude,
Bad
because
advice.
yeah, bad advice, dude, because it is about what you know. Because if you're a fucking next level engineering genius, okay, like Rick and Morty God level, it's not about who you know, it's about what you know. Okay.
At that point.
Uh
Yeah.
okay. Because they they that's gonna apply to people, not you. Okay. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. It's yeah, I mean, they're gonna want to know you, you know? Um it's yeah, it is about what you know. Because if you are an expert engineer, expert programmer, um, you don't have to worry about who you know. If you're really smart and you understand marketing and you understand development, look at the other story we discussed about that solo developer that created that drug dealing game on Steam that overtook that Assassin's Creed in sales. This one developer beat the company with hundreds of developers and millions of dollars. Okay, yeah. If we want to get into EA or whatever, it's who you know. Oh,
Yeah.
but one of those fucking engineers in EA who are getting paid way more than that guy was probably had money while he was developing that game himself. Yeah, you want to work at EA? Maybe it's who you know. Okay. But at the end of the day, the programmer at EA is not who's working on Assassin's Creed is not in the same position as the guy who built a game himself who beat Assassin's Creed. So in that case, it's not who you know, it's what you know. You know, who you know gets you a job. What you know gets you a company.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Love it. Great answer. So, coming in to the end of this well, well, well played out and honestly informative packed. Like I knew it was just based it's gonna play out that way based on our phone call, right? So final final words, what is the best advice you could give to anyone who may be watching this or considering developing applications, products, based on your background? What is the best piece of advice you could give them?
Uh, particularly for people who may be wanting to do a project. Is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
advice is, it has to be fucking amazing. Okay. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything for you. You know, it's got to be great. This is why sometimes I look at what I'm building and I get upset. Okay, because it's not where I wanted to be until I can actually honestly look at it. Like, I don't have any biases towards what I'm creating. Maybe some biases, but I can look at something shit I created and be like, that's not good. Because I have many things to compare it to. I have Instagram, Facebook, and I won't be happy until it's perfected. Like now that page I showed you now, I feel quite embarrassed, actually. But sometimes, we work with what we got so we can get some results and develop it further. As a strategic approach. First prize is obviously creating a masterpiece. But ultimately that must be your goal, that must be your aim, because whatever you're doing, you have to figure out how to be the best at it, or at least compete with the people who are the best at it. So one of the things I learned when I was still in varsity was in college was this I had this lecturer Lorato, and sometimes when you create something you think it's amazing, dude, until someone looks at it and it's like, that's shit, and it breaks you down. Okay. And at first, the biggest lesson I didn't learn was to take criticism. That story about that guy I told you earlier, he didn't give any criticism. He just said, do something else. Sometimes you have to know when to ignore criticism. Sometimes you have to know when to actually embrace it and use it towards your advantage so that you can overcome the need to rely on people's criticism. And what I mean by that is like some people will not know how to compare their product to a world standard quality until they embrace criticism and ultimately become their biggest critic. Because when you critically analyze your own work, you will be able to honestly tell yourself whether this is something that's worthwhile or not, whether this is something that looks good or not, whether it's something that this is financially viable or not. You have to be the person that has enough insight that you become the number one in critical analysis, that you become the number one person you trust in terms of telling yourself whether this is shit or it's not, or it's mediocre, or it needs to be perfected or increased, or whether it's worthwhile or not.
Like
I could be.
your own
Huh?
trust, you are your own trusted advisor, because if you can't trust your own intuition, what are you doing managing your own project, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, there's two sides to that, because you can get this person that's totally biased towards their own work and is delusional in the sense that it's not practical what they're trying to achieve or what they're trying to create. And I'm not saying by the level of ambition or complexity, but I'm just saying by the marketing and financial viability of the product. So it's a fine line. If you are going to be the number one resource of critical decision making, obviously it's very helpful to get inputs to help improve what you're working on. But at the end of the day, some people are creating products that don't make sense or are maybe probably a waste of time. You know, it has to be financially viable. It has to, in terms of its marketability, its marketization, and its ability to actually create users, generate retention, and turn a profit with whatever it is that you're doing. Because sometimes you can lie to yourself. You can tell yourself, oh, this is an amazing idea, but really it's actually not. So you got to be really, if you're that authority who's going to give you the green light or red light, you got to be realistic. And so we have so many references, to work off. If you're creating a book, look at the best, and that's a very hard market, I'm not going to lie to you. It's a difficult market unless you've got your own distribution platform and your own marketing platform sorted. It's fucking difficult and it requires resources, and you need to be able to ensure that what you spend, you get back. But
That's where it comes
with my
into who you know, because if you don't have those own resources, you got to know people who know how to get the book published, distributed.
yeah, sure. Who book publishing and this and that, I guess,
Yeah,
is that is, who what because if you create an excellent, fucking amazing book, a publisher, it doesn't matter which publisher you give it to, if they've got two heads on their shoulders and I've got time to read it, you know, who who is not going to get a publisher to publish a shitty book they don't believe in. It's not going to get me to publish a shitty product they don't believe in. What you know is going to get an amazing fucking product. Don't rely on who you know, rely on what you know. Because what you know is going to give you the technical capability and honest critical capability to create something that's fucking amazing. And once it's really amazing, you're going to know it's amazing because people are going to love it. And when they love it, you know it's amazing. Okay? But you first need to create something that's so good that people love.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the
And
key.
and creativity, that's where creativity comes down to creativity, because creativity helps us create things better than what they already are. As I said, I looked at every social media company. I saw every single thing that I didn't like about them. I looked at every single mobile game. I looked at everything that I ever wanted in an amazing experience. I looked at every single success story that inspired my project. I looked at every single flaw and failure of my heroes, flaw and failure of the my competitors and my brands and my products, in order to put that together to create something that is sound, that touches on every point, that I know strategically is a good product, because it meets the failed flaws of other companies or people didn't meet up to. One person said to me something one day. They said to me, so yeah, that's basically my advice, is like, to be honest with you, marketing and branding and stuff's really important, but what's really important is your product or your service. Okay. Because if your product's really, really, really good, you rely less upon marketing to sell your product. Your product sells itself. And then after that, when you get to the marketing stage, the marketing becomes easy because the product sells itself.
Yeah,
So it's not really, all we have to do is show the product in our marketing. And because it's so amazing, it's so new, it's so unique, it sells itself. And a lot of what I'm saying is a lot easier said than done, but these are principles you have to abide to either way,
time test.
whether it's easier said than done than what I'm saying to you. You have to create an amazing product. You have to compete with the best in the world at what you're doing. Okay. And that's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, but that's what you need to do. If you want to make serious stuff and you want to make an impact, because what else why are you doing it if you don't want to reach as many people as possible? Then you have to compete with the best in the world and get your skill set and your understanding and your knowledge high enough so that you can produce it towards that level. And it's not going to be easy. I'm busy struggling on a page right now that I'm not totally happy with, that I've been stuck on. And sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome with what I'm doing. But hard work takes that away. Progress and development, progress in what you're creating takes away the imposter syndrome. And you got to stick with what you're doing. You got to realize it's going to be difficult to make world standard, high quality stuff. If it's easy, that's great. And it very well may be easy, but you do not expect it to be difficult. Expect it to be difficult and be ready to deal with that difficulty and complexity. As long as you're able to do that, every minute spent in it, you're progressing. That's all that matters, progress. And become addicted. Become addicted towards developing. Whatever it is you're developing, become addicted towards it, because when you're addicted towards it, you're going to spend all the time needed on the research, the skill upgrades, the development time, whatever it is. And the more you do that, the better you get at it, the better your product becomes, the better. Look at Instagram's first version. Okay, Instagram's first version, like building apps back in the day was so much easier. Building apps now is so much more complicated because they got all the animations, they got all this, they got all that. Oh, it's fucking way more complicated, okay? But Instagram was looked way shittier than it did in its first version, and it just kept improving. So, you know, understand you're always going to be improving. You're always going to be furthering your development of your product or your service.
Constantly.
And and hopefully whatever game you're in allows you to keep doing that. Because that's great when you know it's a peace of mind when you know that after my first version, we keep pushing it, increase the quality, increase the design, increase the animations,
Good.
so that if we don't get that masterpiece level, that highly ambitious masterpiece level initially, we keep working towards it until we do.
Yeah.
Because there's trade-offs, sometimes you want the product just to be functional, to be in market, and sometimes you're so, like me, pedantic and particular about your first viable product being as perfected as possible. Otherwise it's not going to make you happy and you're not going to feel comfortable with releasing or launching it. That's my advice. And upgrade your skills. Choose to learn new stuff. Choose to learn new skills because those will never leave you. When you learn coding, when you learn video editing, when you learn any of these skills, you'll not forget them. You won't forget them once you learn them. You know, you can spend your time watching TV, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to seminars, blah, 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 da, da, da. A lot of that information you can't forget. But if you're learning skill sets, you're not going to forget them. And those skill sets are going to stay with you and make you more resourceful and more independent. And become as independent as possible so that it becomes less about who you know and what you know. Um, you know, that's my advice. You don't rely on someone opening a door for you. Become so good at developing, you learn how to create your own door. Okay.
Create the
And then you
door,
don't have to rely on people.
create the
Okay.
door, walk through it, and create a masterpiece. I think that's a great way to end it. Again, appreciate your time. As always, Jesse, you're an inspiration with what you're doing. Keep up the great work. Give me a bit of time. I'll give you a call. Just let me get this all wrapped up here, saved, and I'll send it to you once it's live. And until next time, bye for now.
Thanks a lot, man. Great talk.
Cheers.